Good morning. Hello, friends. I hope everybody is doing fantastic. All right, so I picked this one up about a third of the way through the effort. As you can see, it's space hardware or science fiction stuff with some rocket ships and jet fighters or rocket fighters or space fighters. Just some generic space hardware and people amongst the hardware or individuals controlling the hardware. I like the idea of immersing the people in the equipment and they're interacting with it. It's a challenging draw because I find that sitting position complicated. It's coming from angles that I typically don't have memories of, like from behind the shoulder looking at somebody in a chair, and you're always kind of reaching back into your memory to see how that might look and or dig around for some reference. And I like the idea of people sitting amongst the equipment and the gear and the controls, accessing it and manipulating it with their fingers and hands. Um, it's a good challenge and it's a good exercise to work up some of those skills for the foreshortening. So I'm working on a guy in the cockpit with his accessing the controls and trying to create a bit of urgency in the scene. Like he needs to get the controls to respond appropriately to do the thing that needs to be done to get out of the situation. Put a little tension into the illustration or the narrative, but I don't have any final piece in mind. Just messing around. Um, Still trying to figure out a better way to handle this lighting. I notice when my arms move in and out of the light that the color goes from cool green, this cool pale green to a warm redder haze or atmosphere. And I went into DaVinci Resolve to try to equalize the color across the whole thing, and kind of worked a little bit. There are some spots where the warmness really picked up and it gave it a real dark area, or there's a high contrast between darkness and this reddish tan, but minor issues that I'm working through with DaVinci Resolve and video editing and my camera setup. As long as you can see the drawing sort of clearly, or the progress. Yeah, I think I scrapped that face a couple of times. I went back and forth with the eraser. Started from scratch. It's that under the chin position that I'm struggling with. I'm really trying to work out. And take off your hat, dummy. There you go. The helmet too. I like the helmets and the gear that you can just pile up all kinds of distracting detail. And I always like to use the detail to distract the viewer because you can razzle dazzle them with nonsense if you lack the ability to actually draw. Just kind of overwhelm the situation. Oh, and the helmets and the hoses and the doodads and doohickeys coming off of the pilot. So I kind of took a quick look at an F-16 cockpit and they had the throttle. I think the throttle was on the right and the joystick was on the left of the compartment of the cockpit. And then there were all kinds of other jets where they had the cockpit in the middle between the legs. I wonder I wonder what the difference is or what the ergonomic decision making process is with that. It's got to be something that's been modeled and thought out to the umpteenth degree, especially in those intense situations. You just want your muscle memory to reach for the thing without thinking about it, looking at it, having your eyes closed, being upside down, spun around, and dizzy. But actually ends up being a bit of fun. Always messing with detail is fun. And those jitters, when you can see the jitters, the camera shifts like that. I have to swap out the battery. I burn through those GoPro batteries pretty quick. They don't last very long. I did get some of those extendo superchargers for they were a little bit more pricey. They're supposed to last a little longer. We'll see how those work out. And when I take the battery out and reattach the camera to the mount, it's in a slightly different location. And if I'm not paying attention, as you can see, the book moves down a good half a screen. Try not to do that too much. So every fighter craft needs their guns. And this spaceship or this fighter, I think I kind of have these notions of these very simple shapes that if they're covered with details and that illusion of complexity, they can look really cool. I'm not always sure how that pans out. I don't know if anybody saw the rocket build that I did on the previous video. There's that model rocket made by ST's, that ST's Interceptor, and they just have those decals, and the decals make the model. I mean, the rocket's just a tube. Basically, it's just a tube painted white, but then they razzle dazzle you with all this illusion of detail with the stickers, and it looks so cool. It's just eye candy. And that's what I was thinking about with these with that spaceship shape, or the shape of that fighter. Just cones, just looks like a little dragster or something. And it's not the first time I've seen that. There was oh, there's a I didn't know, how did that get in there? You get to see the grimy little area that I'm working in. That's usually covered in pencil dust and eraser dust by the time I'm done with one of these things. Um, but that fighter craft was definitely something, or that design is definitely something I've seen somewhere else, and it's bubbling up through the subconscious. A little X-wing fighter. All these things are in our collective unconscious, I believe, at this point, or our shared visual language. And your spacesuit, you need your quick releases and your snaps for ejecting or getting out of there in case the thing starts on fire. You don't want that. Your throttle, basic controls, a little shock absorber on the seat. We'll finish that off there. Hands and gloves. Gloves are awesome. You can do so much with it. It's a little detail that you can play with to add a lot to the scene. And there's so much more I could do with these gloves. We'll just leave them as is, I think, for now. It's mostly about the practice, not going for the finished piece. I really just try to see too how fast I can get these things done and have it have any kind of quality at all. And I think maybe I might have messed with this for an hour, 2 hours before I finally went back to bed. I could just keep throwing hot wires and hoses and boxes behind that seat to make it look cooler. Just having fun with that. But I think I might be getting bored with it a little too. I wanted to get a more complete 360-degree view of that ship. Where'd I go? There I am. Because I'll just throw the sketchbook away and I won't look at this drawing again for a long time. And I'll have more of an archive of what was going on in my head if I can get more views of the ship or the craft, in case I ever want to reuse it for 3D, doing some Blender. And I think we're getting close to wrapping this up. Anyway, if you stuck around this long, I truly appreciate your viewership. And if you want to come back, we will definitely be doing this again. Thanks.